Okay, I think I'm live. Hello. I'm a little bit nervous about doing this broadcast actually, because I'm not ready to share my message yet. I'm not ready to share my message in its fullest to do it justice in terms of what I really think this deserves. If you're watching for the first time, my name is Danni Blechner. I'm an author, book journey mentor, founder of a company called Conscious Dreams Publishing. We work with authors from all over the world who have powerful messages and stories to share. I'm absolutely passionate about providing a platform for unseen, unheard authors. So this is the first time I do this show every Wednesday, 7 o'clock. This is my show. And I feel nervous because I'm not ready. I'm not ready to have this full on conversation. In fact, recent events, I've not really been able to have much real conversation. Today is probably the first day of being able to have conversation that doesn't involve being on a keyboard. Yeah. So this show, if you're watching for the first time, is called Book Journey Mentor Uncut. And it's a show where we give a platform to unseen and sometimes established authors as well. They're not only published through Conscious Dreams Publishing, they could be published through any means, as long as they have work that inspires, educates, and empowers in some sort of way. Now, I think it's really important to address what's been going on over the last few weeks and where we have all been mentally with this. If you're watching, please do say hello. I'm not able to see who's on. Maybe I will later on, but I just want to spend the first little bit of the show before I introduce my lovely guest, who is my sister, just speaking a little bit about recent events. And I have made some notes. I've got a lot to say. I have got a lot to say, but as I said, I'm not 100% ready to share my message in its entirety yet. What I will say, though, is that the recent events have affected me deeply to the core, to the point where I haven't been able really to function and thrive at my fullest, which is so important if we're going to make any kind of change in this world. I'm processing a lot. I think what's happened has brought up a lot of conversation. It's brought up a lot of some of our own, when I say our, people who have been subject to racial profiling, people who have experienced racial discrimination, people who have even been experienced police brutality. So it's brought up a lot of trauma for us all, and trauma that we don't just have in our own personal lives, but trauma that also exists within our DNA. It's important to remember that this is just the catalyst. This isn't about one man's life. It's not about one man's life. It's about centuries of systemic oppression, systemic racism, centuries of oppression, whether that's in our personal life or whether that manifests in microaggressions, whether that manifests in our professional life, because it happens. And for the very first time, I am seeing people of all races finally get the message to see that this is going on. And it's just shown how important it is for us to realize that changes are only going to happen when we sing with one united voice. Now, I've seen a lot of posts that have been extremely triggering for me, extremely triggering. That's why I'm not fully ready to share my message. Extremely triggering messages. And I've made notes that I can stay on track with what I want to talk about. I want to impress upon the fact that this is not a black or white issue. This issue is not something that should cause divisions. This is a humanity issue. It's a humanity issue. So anyone who has any kind of heart should understand the importance of the conversations that we should be having right now. As I said, it's brought up a lot. And sad's not even a word. I'm grieving. Not just over, as I said, one man's life, it's the countless lives. I can't tell you the amount of times I've posted about racial profiling or people who've lost their lives due to police brutality. And I want to just, before I crack into what I want to talk about, just honor some of these names. And it's really sad because it's going to take a while because there's a lot. There's a lot of people out there that I'm still seeing saying all lives matter. I don't want to address this in a video just yet. I've addressed it through posts. I don't want to address it just yet. But here's a little tiny snippet of why it's important. And I'm going to name some of the names of Black people who have been subject to police brutality, innocent and unarmed. So we have Sandra Bland, Armand Aubrey, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor. It's women as well. Women as well. Jonathan Ferrell, Renisha McBride, Stephen Clark, Jordan Edwards, Jordan Davids, Alton Sterling, Ayanna Jones, Mike Brown, Tamir Rice. We have the congregation in the church. Trayvon Martin in Charleston, this was. Sean Bell, Oscar Grant, Philando Castro, Corey Jones, John Crawford, Terence Crutcher, Keith Scott, Clifford Glover, Claude Reese, Randy Evans, Yvonne Smallwood, Amadou Diallo, Walter Scott, Eric Garner. Those are just a few, because if I went on, this would take the entire episode. We don't have the time. It's for these countless lives. I have a favorite pair of earrings, and they're called on it, and I can't find them anywhere, but on them they say, "I am my ancestors' wildest dreams." And this is such an important message to me, because yes, whilst we do have the privilege of having the power of our voice, which is why I'm so passionate about the power of our voice and using it in a positive way. I am so, it's not even a word. I have nothing but admiration for our ancestors that went before us, who endured so much that I can't even imagine. They have enabled us to be here and use our voice in a positive way to start to create change. So that's why, and we can do things that they would never, ever have imagined. And that's why they're my favorite earrings. These earrings I have on today say their name, and they contain all the lives of Black lives lost due to police brutality. I just want to bring up, before I bring on my guest, I would love her to come on. I had an event called Black Authors on the Rise in October for Black History Month. And I had quite a bit of criticism from mainly Caucasian people who didn't quite understand. And they would say to me, "But why are you separating?" And I hear this all the time. "Why are you separating yourselves? Why is this necessary? Why do you need to have an event? Why do you need to have just Black authors? That's racist." That's another conversation. Okay. This is why. Okay, the children, if we all agree that the generation, he should never really, it's embarrassing they need to know about all of this. It's embarrassing to tell them. It's embarrassing. They are going to be leading the way. 1%, which has now risen to 5% of protagonist characters in children's fiction are from BAME backgrounds, Black, Asian, minority, ethnics, a label that we've been given, okay? Now, if you're young and you're growing up and you're not seeing positive images of yourself represented through mainstream media, through books, through music, through all these images that we're fed, that will give you that unconscious message that you have no value. Your voice doesn't matter. Your story doesn't matter. Your life doesn't matter. So whilst we published people from all backgrounds, I don't discriminate in any way, shape or form. I champion Black authors. I champion authors who do not have their voices heard and stories shared. So for so long, we've had our stories told by other people. We've been fed a single narrative, and our voices have been stifled and silenced, and it upsets me deeply when I go into groups, you know, with people that I converse with on a business level, and seeing people post things like, "Can we stop talking about this now and get back to business?" That's another post. That's another video, because it's not about that, because it completely dismisses the issue at hand. It completely dismisses the pain, because it doesn't affect me in my world. We see this as a non-issue. That's deeply painful. So yes, I will champion diversity in publishing. Yes, I will champion our young people looking at authors, seeing authors that look like themselves, seeing characters that look like them, doing positive things, loving their hair, loving their skin, loving their culture, championing their culture, singing a positive voice. I will champion that all day, every day, and I hold no apology for that. So moving on, this show is Book Journey Mentor Uncut, and I am interviewing my awesome and amazing sister, who is a holistic health and well-being coach. She is brilliant at what she does, absolutely amazing. This is her book. She has over 20 years experience. We were going to release it later on in the year, but because of everything going on with COVID, like you can't really see there you go. Anyway, we thought it was a really important book to get out now, because we're living in a fast-paced world. There's a lot of people who are struggling. Mental health is not good for a lot of people, especially with recent events. So I think it's such an important book now. Thanks, Fran. She's holding it up, but she's not on camera yet. So I'm going to bring her on. Please do say hello. If you have any questions for her, please do ask them. I'm going to bring her on. Love her to pieces.
Oh wow, I'm on.
Hi, Fran. How you doing?
Hey, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing much better than yesterday. And no, that was an amazing intro, actually. I think it's important to address that, and what you're doing with children books is amazing. You know, I don't remember seeing having books that represent that, you know, look like me or you represented. And so it's just uncovering things like that, making people aware, because that seeks into the psyche from a very young age. You know, you don't see people who look like you that are represented in the media. So yeah, well done. But
oh, thank you. So Fran, how are you finding lockdown?
Do you know what?
Doesn't seem like, yeah.
It's not, I suppose it's not been too different. I've quite liked lockdown, actually, because I'm a home person, and I'm so happy I've got my own space and my own flat, so that I like it, you know, I've set my place up to be my sanctuary. It's been a time to go within as well and try and get quiet, look at what's working, what's not, and what you want to change. I mean, the world is changing. There's so much craziness happening at the moment. There's so much chaos. Yeah. Chaos at the moment. And so this is a real reminder for me to go back to all the principles that I talk about and I preach, and to really embody that at a deep level, which has been a challenge.
I know. I think we both had really difficult days yesterday as well, processing a lot. And I think, you know, people that I'm speaking with as well, it's the same thing, no matter, you know, the background, they're processing different things.
Yeah.
Some people for the first time are actually understanding and seeing this for what it is, and actually challenging their own unconscious bias as well. So that process is also, I don't know what that must be like, but it's a process, right?
So, yeah, definitely. There's a lot going on, and you know, I think what I'd like to add to that, though, is, I mean, yesterday was my emotions were running high. You know, I felt a lot of grief, I felt a lot of pain, I felt a lot of anger, and I needed to move that through my system. And I think that's really, really, like, I had my day, I had my you know, breakdown in bed. What is important is to, as I teach, is to come back to center, ground that energy and emotion in, because staying in fear and anger, who angers you controls you, as they say. So who angers you controls you. And of course, there is a lot of anger and rage, and we're feeling, and like, man, I felt that I was getting triggered left, right, and center on social media yesterday, and I was very reactive. I'll put my hands up. I was, but we need to come back into our power. Everybody, you know, everybody needs to come back into their power, so that we can transform, we can move through this, so we can raise to higher levels of consciousness, to unity, so that humanity can heal. Humanity is going through a healing crisis right now. It's going through a purge. Yeah, I felt like purging yesterday. And don't get me wrong, it's still there, but I definitely moved through of that. We you know, we can't stay in the trauma, we have to move trauma through, otherwise you stay in it, you stay stuck in it. And the learning and the unlearning of the unconscious biases is really important, and it's also part of the healing, the collective healing as well, of the understanding at a deeper level is helping to heal. Getting angry and, you know, shouting out from the rooftops. I'm seeing people kind of shouting at people to, like, they should be voicing themselves. And, you know, everyone's going to have a different role, as we were talking about. Everyone will have a different role. Some people will be sitting back silently, observing and learning their own unconscious beliefs. You don't have to shout everything out from social media. However, I think if you do have a large platform and you have the ability to influence other people, then you can point them in the right directions. You can speak, you know, but there will be a lot of people who this is new for them, and they're trying to uncover the work. So you want it to come from somewhere sincere, not because someone told you that you should put this up, you know, because that creates,
one day,
it creates more division. It just creates this, you know, that's not also very helpful.
I think that's really powerful what you said. That's something really I'm going to think about is who angers you controls you. I think I like to think my people who know me say, "Oh, you're so happy and you're smiling." Listen, when I'm ready for a raid, when I'm ready to be angry, you know me, Fran. You know, I will always speak my mind. Always speak my mind. And I've seen some things that I've had to just step back away from and say to myself, I've got to think about my mental health, because when I'm driven, if we are driven from emotion and we're constantly reacting, that's why so many of us are drained and exhausted. Because we're fighting something, we're fighting against people, we're allowing it to control us. So what tips would you give? I really want to kind of talk about your experience first, but I just want to kind of follow this road for a second. What tips would you give that people can use instantly now to quell their ability to allow their emotions to control them and not come from such a reactive place that is not going to actually create any change?
Sorry,
I'm throwing that on you. 3 things people can do to really just ground themselves in center.
Do you know what? Step back from social media.
Yeah.
For a little bit. I mean, Blackout Tuesday, we can go into all of that. That's another day. That's a whole other discussion, and how that's sort of got in the way a little bit. You know, lots of important news was coming out yesterday that was being blocked. So step back. Don't go on social media when your emotions are running high. Step back. There's a lot of noise out there. I'd just say really step back from social media. I am also taking this is advice for me. This is learning for me too, things I need to do. You know, I was also being reactive. Step back from social media, take a break. Breathe. Always come back to breathing. Breathe into the belly. Ground yourself. Ground your energy. Breathe. It's all about regulating the nervous system. It always comes back to that, because when emotions are heightened and high, with the anger, the rage, the frustration, the what to believe, what's true, what's not the case. It's chaos. Energetic chaos. And your breath is going to be up here in a reactive state. So just pause, breathe, come into the belly, and just center. Try and bring it's all about realigning the nervous system, because then you can think clearly and see clearly, and then start to come back into your center and your power. I mean, yesterday I was not thinking or seeing clearly. Today, I did a lot of work. I fasted yesterday. I didn't fast on purpose. I lost my appetite. I cried. I meditated. I did some ancestral healing meditations. I drank water. I went to bed. I was in bed at 3 o'clock.
I was in bed at 3 a.m.
And I feel better. I do feel better in that I can start to, you know, think, have more clarity, see, be back in my center, because we need to do that. collectively.
Thank you. We've got some really good responses here. We've got Maureen says, find your stillness in the midst of external chaos. I can see you guys now. Hi, Naya. She says, not everything requires a reaction.
Yeah.
Maureen says, as authors, write our truths and teach the next generation to do the same. Exactly. Cassia says, hello there, Carl. Hello there, Robert. Nice to see you. Please, could you invite people? Because I'm not sure if I can do it right now.
No, okay.
At the same time. Not you, I'm interviewing you, Fran.
Oh, right.
If you're watching, I'm actually feeling calmer even speaking to you. Sometimes it's just about connecting to people who have that calm energy and who are coming from that right place as well, I think. All right, tell us about your experience. You are a holistic health and well-being coach. How did you get into that journey?
I guess started 20 years ago in fitness, personal training. I ran my own businesses personal training businesses within health clubs and therapy centers where I did body work and stuff. So I built up my own practices and worked for myself since 2005, basically. For the past 15 years, I've worked for myself. And when you work for yourself, you work all hours of the day, and I loved what I did. So when I was personal training and doing sports massage, I was loving what I was doing, but worked on sociable hours, worked kind of all areas of town. And after, say, 10, 12 years, just began to burn out, kept hitting the edge of burnout. And also, as life started to become more fast-paced as well, noticing that my clients were burning out. Sometimes I turn up for a session and they would be breaking down in tears because of just exhaustion, especially if they're juggling kids and stuff. So I completely changed my session. So I became very adaptive to how I worked and started to understand a lot about burnout, hormones and stress back in like 10, 12 years ago. Went on to do my yoga teacher training in India, went on to study other holistic practices, body work and transformational breath, which has been transformational. And basically over the last 5 years, having sort of, hit that edge of burnout where you just felt like I was going through the motions of life. Every new practice I went to there was always a realization of, oh my gosh, my physiology, my nervous system and my body is hit a burnout. Yeah. And I had to reevaluate the pace I was living and what I was doing, and did lots of practices that really helped me, I would say, completely rewire my nervous system, my physiology, my brain, the way I think, the way I do things. Why was I, just chasing the busyness all the time? So addicted to busyness, that's really big in society now. And often that comes from, I'm not enough, I've got to do more. And so, that's how I got to now. So now I coach people. I work mostly with burnt out entrepreneurs and business leaders, because especially a lot of burnt out, a lot of entrepreneurs, they're building up their business, but what they have forgotten is having a strong foundation of health, and not just physical health, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that will enable you to flourish in every area of your life. So with your business, relationships, money, things like that, we have to have a strong foundation of health. As we're seeing, the whole point of lockdown was to do with health. So the reason the whole world is shut, if we don't have our health, there's nothing. So we have to build that physically, mentally, spiritually.
Our health is our wealth, as you always say. Sherry, I've made it public now, so you're free to share. Hey, Steve, nice to see you. You're free to share. Thank you so much for coming on. If you can invite people for me, that would be great, because I'm not able to for some reason. So I remember you saying that are you still there? You've frozen. Oh, Fran. So if you've just tuned in, you're watching Book Journey Mentor Uncut. I'm Daniela Blechner, interviewing my awesome and amazing sister, Francesca Blechner, who has written a book called Self-Care for Life in the City. I don't know if you can see it here. It's my bright light. Self-Care for Life in the City. She is a holistic health and well-being coach. She's brilliant at what she does. She works with burnt-out entrepreneurs. Her book really is, and business leaders, all about how to nourish your mind, body and soul in a fast-paced world. For anyone really living in the city. And I think it's really interesting seeing as lockdown really I see as a sign or an opportunity or a message for us to really slow down. We've been called to slow down in our lives. So a lot of the things in the book I'm definitely implementing, or I give the opportunity to implement in terms of ensuring that I'm eating well. So she talks about the body, the mind, the soul, all three working together. Making sure that we're eating right well. She talks about the right foods that we should be eating, the chemicals that we have within the food that we may not know about. She's a wealth of information, how it's important to breathe. We were discussing before about how a lot of what's been going on in the media and the information that we're being given and fed and the images that we're seeing and the noise on social media is creating so much noise in our minds. So imagine if you're already feeling anxious and you're already feeling fearful, what is that really doing to the mind? So there's a lot of techniques in there about how to slow down your mind. And one thing I actually realized was I wasn't breathing. I wasn't breathing properly. And certainly over the last 3 days, I kind of checked myself and I said to myself, Danny, you're actually not breathing. And that's holding yourself in this fight or flight position all the time, which really isn't healthy. I'm hoping my sister comes back on because she's just disappeared. Not sure where she's gone. So if anyone's got any questions, please do ask the questions. Any comments, please ask the comments. That would be amazing. I've got Naya here saying this is why books with colour are so important, lifting the younger generation. Exactly. Here you go. Hi, Fran. She's back.
Annoying. Oh, for months now, BT. They're meant to have sorted it out the other day. I mean, look, small problems, but it just cut out and then it reboots.
It's fine. Let's talk about breathing. Tell us a bit about transformational breathing, because I went to a few sessions with you and learned a lot, and I realized I have not been breathing properly at all. So
oh my gosh, yeah,
what it is.
Breathing is that's something that's really transformed my life, because breathing, basically how you breathe, we all have a unique breathing pattern, which is like a fingerprint, and your breath tells a story. Where you're breathing, where you're not breathing in the body will highlight how you're living life and the patterns in your life, any sort of like health issues that you're having as well. So if you think about when you're stressed, breathing becomes more shallow and people start to breathe more from here, which creates anxiety. The diaphragm then gets really tight, which is around here, and contracted. And so the breath never then goes into the belly. When you breathe more into the belly, then that's telling the nervous system, I'm safe. There is no immediate threat. There's no tiger. And so feeling more grounded, more connected, and also just feeling emotions. When we don't want to feel, we tend not to breathe into the belly. And so if you're feeling more anxious as well, the breath becomes here. If we have experienced heartbreak and pain, then there may not be any breath in the chest, or grief, for example. So if the breath is quite shallow, that's indicative of or like, you're not taking in much air, then how fully are you living life? So the more you can expand the breath and open up the whole respiratory system, not only is that going to send life force to all of the organs and vitality through the body and to the glands, but also expand our experience of life. A little bit like this is a great example, Wi-Fi connection. How wide is your bandwidth? Is it like you're living like this? Or if your frequency opens up bigger, then life experiences we move through the way we move through the world is different. Your inner world reflects your outer world. That's also a great thing for now, actually, coming back to the 3 things. Your inner world creates your outer world, so you can choose to stay in the chaos. I mean, gosh, I'm glad I moved through some of that chaos yesterday, because I don't want to stay in the chaos.
Yeah.
Stay in the chaos, or and then what you will see outside is just chaos everywhere. We can choose to come back to you, come back to your center, come into your power.
Thank you. Gus is saying he's just logged on and you're speaking truth. Are you talking about rebirthing? Just before we kind of get into that question, which is a good question, I just wanted to, no, I can't remember, it's completely gone, to do with breath, but let's go into rebirthing, because that's a really interesting question.
Similar. I haven't actually done the specifics, much rebirthing breath as such, that particular technique, so I can't comment. I think it's quite similar. The only different transformational breath is that there's a use of more adding the body work, the pressure points, body mapping, use of affirmations that talk to your subconscious mind as well, and movement and sound and toning. So I think with rebirthing it's more of the breath, but yes, similar. You get to potentially integrate birth traumas as well, because the first breath you take is when you're born, and the last breath you take is when we leave this world. So if you had quite a traumatic birth, that still gets encoded in the subconscious mind into your cells somewhere.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to link that back to what we were talking about at the beginning, which is all about taking your power back. And we talk about wanting to make a change. And, some people may temporarily want to, vent, get their emotions out. And I think that comes from power. I know it comes from powerlessness, because I'm talking about myself, this sense of powerlessness that you feel, this continual pushing down, this continual not being heard, this store it in your body. And it can take one trigger, and that trigger can be someone saying all lives matter. All lives matter. One trigger, because it completely dismisses the issue at hand, and people react, and then you've given your power away to that one person who is ignorant in that moment. So I think that's a really powerful point that you made about breathing and taking our power back and stepping back from social media as well. Most definitely. Thank you for that. Tell us about Self-Care for Life in the City. What inspired you to write it?
We can't see it.
It's because I've got a light here. There you go. Self-Care for Life. Okay.
What inspired me? Do you know what inspired me was, I know you've got to go in a bit. What inspired me is, well, one is just the monumental increase that I was seeing in people in anxiety, stress, depression, burnout, adrenal fatigue, autoimmune disease. It's like 1 in 2 people, and the age is getting younger and younger. So that inspired me to write about it, because I knew I've got so much knowledge and so much experience and so much wisdom. I've got to put it into a book, because I can help. I can't tell one person at a time all of this information. I can't work with so many people individually, and so I put it into a book. But also my passion is that I really believe as well is that the way I work with my clients now, when I was personal training and fitness and nutrition, people were waiting to be told what to do. Like, for example, because that's sort of, personal trainers like tells you what to do. Whereas now it's, I want to guide people to become the master of themselves, to master their health, because that's what I've done. And, I'm putting my 20 years of experience into this book, saving you 20 years of discovering and finding. It's like, oh my gosh, let me just put the best of the best in here. I've done the research now. That you're going to be empowered to take your health into their own hands, because you know what? Big pharmacy is not gonna be your health bank. Let's say. That's the word. They're not going to save you. The big food companies do not have your interests at heart for your health. They're interested in profits. The government does not have your best interest of health, or they don't know. They're not telling you how to boost your immune system during this time. So you have to empower yourself. So it's about accountability, self-responsibility, and self-empowerment. How can I improve my health? 1 in 2 people will get cancer. To me, I don't accept that. I don't subscribe to that. That is not good enough, because genetics only play something like 5% of diseases are from genetics.
Oh, wow.
So 95% is lifestyle, environment, stress-related, emotion.
So let's stop. Sorry, I hate interrupting, but hold on. 5%. So all these people that say, well, my mum had cancer, or my grandmother had cancer, or this person had cancer, so I'm destined to get such. I take that back. I'm not saying that for myself, but people who say that, are we saying then that we're talking about 5% of these diseases are passed down genetically?
A small percent. I'm not saying just all cancers. I'm not saying just talking about cancer here. I'm talking about
disease.
Other things that are there are some that are genetic. I can't name them, but it is a small percentage. A lot of it is yes, there is lifestyle. Of course, epigenetics. If you're living a similar life to your family.
Yeah.
Then our energy fields, our nervous systems, our physiology attunes to that. It trains. So it is mostly is lifestyle, environment, emotional, stress-related, chemical.
Talk to us about food, because you touched on, the food companies and how they don't have our best interest in heart. There's something I feel very strongly about as well. Talk to us. What advice can you give us? What's the best advice you can give us in regards to healthy eating? Because a lot of people think, healthy eating. I'm working with my sister at the moment, and I sat down and I had to fill out lots of forms, and it was worth it, because she goes in depth into, and it's all tailored specifically to you, and she goes through the nutrition as well. We'll go a bit over, Fran, it's fine. So I said,
you go at 8 though. You've got to go to your thing.
So I know. So I think this is really important. So I remember saying to her in the morning, I'm really healthy. I have a mango and pineapple smoothie. Sounds healthy, right? Because we're told that fruit is healthy. And everything that I thought, she was like, no, that's not the best thing for you. Because I think I was going through adrenal fatigue at the moment, and it's full of sugar. So talk to us about some of the misconceptions that we have about food. So Sherry says, can Francesca reel a little bit from her book? Oh yeah, of course. Talk to us a little bit about food, and then read a little bit from your book, please.
Food. Well, I mean, I keep it simple, to be honest. Like, eat as nature intended. So ask yourself, when you're eating something, is this as nature intended? Organic food is called organic, but it should just be called food, because that's how our parents and our grandparents grew up. Eating, like, their food was naturally organic, so it's not meant to be sprayed with all these pesticides and chemicals, and that is creating health issues. And why do we think there's such a monumental increase? Because we're not eating food that is like farmed ethically and healthy. We're not eating healthy animals or fish. So it's really knowing where your food is being sourced from. And a lot of people say, well, organic is expensive, but I put loads of tips in my book about the best ways, how to, just lots of tips around that, how to source the best quality food that you can afford, and lots of, looking up the Dirty Dozen list and the Clean 15. The Dirty Dozen list are the fruits and vegetables that have the highest contamination of pesticides and chemicals, and that you can find that online. And the Clean 15 are the ones that, you don't have to worry. I don't worry about so much. I don't buy those organics, things like with thick skins, like avocados and bananas and stuff. So food. So that's really important, because as we eat food as nature intended, we actually start to naturally detox anyway. And
fuse that with your, the breathing and the mind. It's about harnessing that positive energy, and it's you can we, if you're watching, can you just give us a thumbs up or just give us a heart if you can see how the mind, body and soul are all interlinked in some way, because they don't stand alone. They all work together, don't they? Which is why you're a holistic health and well-being coach, right?
Yes, exactly. We're multi-dimensional beings. Hey, Peter.
Hey, can you read?
Where can you find out about this, about the breath work? So you can find out, well, on my website is holisticbodylife.com, holistic with a W, bodylife.com. Actually, yeah, there's a bit on there, or transformationalbreath.com, .co.uk rather. Yeah, I'm actually about to update some of my websites. So
we'll put the links all in the I'll put the link to the book and then to your website as well. I'm gonna just I'm gonna be here, but I'm gonna just put it on Francesca only, so for her to read a little excerpt from her book for Sherry and everyone.
Perfect. What would you like to what would you like to hear? I've got 3 sections: mind, body, spirit. So I can read an excerpt perhaps from one of those sections. So just put in either mind, body and spirit, just one, and I'll see what the majority come up with.
Meanwhile, while we're waiting for the comments, can you give people can you tell us about your, okay, Sherry's quick. Sherry's like mind. Okay, so let's go with that then. Let's go with mind. I think that's a good one for now. I think it's important. Oh, Gus has said spirit. I'll let you decide.
Okay, I've gone to mine now. Okay, interesting. Okay, I'm just going to go with sorry. Okay, cool. This is really relevant for now. Thoughts. Oh, she's gone.
I'm there, but it's just you now.
Yeah. Pay attention to your thoughts and ensure you are talking and thinking about what you want rather than what you don't want. The same goes for what you feed your mind with, especially those subliminal messages that come from what you watch, listen to, or read. If the first thing you do when you wake up is switch on the news and hear the doom and gloom of the world, then that's likely to evoke fear-based emotions and feelings that carry over into your day. Likewise, when taking public transport or the tube to work, which can be stressful enough in rush hour, avoid reading the newspaper. Rarely do you see headlines in conventional newspapers that are happy and joyful. Often I've had clients tell me that they arrive at work in an anxious state, having jumped out of bed late, eaten breakfast out the door and squashed into a packed tube with no breathing space, all topped off with the miseries of the happenings in the world. How you start your day is key to how the rest of your day flows. We'll explore this more in part 3. So I think that's really important, actually, at this point in time, because it's about also protecting and holding your energy. And if we're consuming so much information and energy at the moment, there's a lot of chaos. So if you're consuming a lot of chaotic energy coming in from media, from the news, from social media, from friends saying this, from this person, that, it's going to totally throw you into that chaos. So really be conscious of what you're consuming so that you can start to quieten your mind and come back to yourself. We don't need lots of people, think of it as the chaos is all the people running around on the riot. That's not that rioting, and that's not helpful. That's not coming from a powerful place. Coming back to your center, feeling the emotions. I'm not saying deny emotions, feel the emotions, but be able to come from your power. That is how we're going to change and how we're going to uplift and transform.
Thank you, Fran. That was absolutely amazing. I'd love to have you back as a guest. Obviously, I get to speak to Fran all the time. If you'd like to get in contact with Fran, I think she's doing free 30-minute consultations, so you can pop all your information in there. Just click and request her. I'm sure she'll be fine accepting your friend request. She's brilliant what she does. She's got a wealth of knowledge. We could honestly speak for another hour, and I think it's just been very healing for me anyway, just to have this conversation, to be able to open it up and actually feel quite calm now. Not that I didn't feel calm before, but I'm certainly working on I can feel a lot calmer. So what are your final words for our viewers?
Final words that's coming through is just what's paramount at this time is to really take care of your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, that it always comes back to that. Protect your energy, protect your space. Be careful of how much energy you're taking on, because we're at a really intense time at the moment. We are the world is going through a healing crisis. The planet is going through a healing crisis, transformation, change, transition. And so you have to prioritize your health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual.
Thank you. Thank you. So Fran will put her links in the comments, and do feel free to connect with her. And whether you're watching now or on the replay, if there's any questions or any comments that you want to make or any thoughts that you want to share, we will all be acknowledged and heard, and we will get back to them. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back next week. Thank you so much, Fran. Next Wednesday, 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST. Thank you so much for joining in the discussion.
Good luck, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I don't have to go, do I?